Hi there, my name is Danielle van der Ende, and we're here for an episode of our 10-minute RGM, where we have short, fun, inspiring conversation with an industry expert to discuss RGM and key learnings. Today, I'm here with Abhilasha Keshariya, Global Strategic Revenue Manager at Mars. So welcome.
It's lovely to be here.
Without further ado, first question is that over the next 12 months, which RDM trends will matter most for your business, and where will you focus your efforts and your team's efforts?
That's a lovely question. So, what we are observing is RGM is being taken as more of an enabler than a constraint. Because in all the organizations, because of the macroeconomic factors, there are a lot of constraints already being put in, be it supply pressures or cost of goods or some tariff orders. So, all of these have one more constraint added to the organization's objective. And when we look at RGM, it's not adding to these constraints, rather, it's one of the enablers that is helping achieve it. So it's the precision that is becoming the trend in RGM. Earlier, we used to have very broad brush approach for, say, for example, if there's a growth of 5%, it would be a broad based one. And then when it percolates down, each level will decide based on their vibes on who can perform how much, and that's how the numbers were getting allocated. But what we are seeing now is a bottom up approach where RGM is giving us the exact value opportunities with channels, with shoppers. Uh, Maybe it's DTC, maybe it's e-commerce. So all the new and fancy channels which have a larger impact now. So how do we monetize them? How do we have those value opportunities? And then give a very precise number on what is the expected growth. So that is the trend. And all the pillars like price back architecture or promo optimization or pricing simulation, all of these contribute to that bigger trend of delivering the value precisely. And that precision comes from RGM, and the broad agenda comes from the business objective.
I love how you take it from a very positive approach, so an enabler, and I totally agree with you. I think that if you approach RGM with that mindset, it's actually a very clear roadmap to where you want to go as an organization. What RGM capability has become essential for your team, especially something that you weren't prioritizing 2, 3 years ago, but that today is really important?
That has been a changing goal, if I'm being frank, if we consider like a decade ago, where getting the basic analytics, etc., were very important. So, understanding your past, all these meetings where we would have these past promotions being analyzed and roasted because now we know what the end result is. But in the past 2, 3 years, what we are seeing is it needs to be a scenario based forward looking analytics, and it has to be an integrated analytics because one macroeconomic factor will have its impact on supply, it will have its impact on financials, it will have its impact on our marketing plan, how we approach our consumers. So it has everything that gets impacted. And if we don't create the scenarios, that is creating forward looking plans, then just analyzing the past will not be sufficient. So as we usually say that hindsight bias is there. So your hindsight vision is always going to be perfect. It's going to be 2020 because you know the results.
Yeah.
The key is once you are sitting at one position, what is the next step that you're going to take? So that is where forward analytics comes into play. So it's no longer just sufficient to say that when I took a price increase, it resulted in XYZ volume for me, for my competitors, for the industry in a whole. But sitting in this particular day, if I take a price increase, what is going to be the impact on the industry? What is going to be the impact on consumers? So, scenario analysis is the keyword that will dictate a lot of our decisions, that will dictate a lot of the digital tools that we are creating, and it will have an integrated impact across multiple channels. So, that is going to be the key.
Basically, what you're telling is we're planning for the best, preparing for the worst, and we make sure that we're ready for whatever comes. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. Was there a specific skill that you realized at some point that you really needed to have for this?
So AI definitely plays a part in it, but what we
Mhm.
realized was that getting a very good quality data. itself and understanding how the tools integrate with it, that becomes a key, because if you don't have the right data, then it's effectively garbage in, garbage out. So getting that right set of data and cleaning it and creating a nice clean data lake where all the different metrics talk to each other, we are able to find the correlations. So starting with that basic correct input, the hygiene factor, that has become very key capability.
Having that data available, that's, well, the first challenge, but as soon as you have it, you can unlock so many insights. Where do you see RGM in general help to solve internal misalignments, for example, between sales teams, finance, supply chain?
There is a lot of value that RGM brings in. And I can say it from all these functions as well as from an RGM perspective. Because it's like if you are creating music, there's a conductor who is orchestrating the different instruments that are there. So maybe your sales is the violin, maybe there's supply, finance, all of them are different instruments, and they're doing their job perfectly. They're doing it very efficiently because they've been given one metric that they have to optimize. But that metric is different for all three functions. So when one is trying to optimize for theirs, there's definitely a clashing objective that the other one has. So when all three of them get together, there are a fair share of fights, which is built into the system. That sort of friction is built into the roles. And what RGM does is it gives them the common language to talk, because it's always prioritizing value, whether it's value to the organization or value to the consumer. It's always giving us the solution that if I have one more pack of my product, which is the channel, which is the shopper it should go to, which helps the supply chain, or if I have one additional dollar, which promotion should I pick up, which helps finance? Or if I have one additional resource, human resource, which is the role that they should play in sales, or which is the channel that they should focus on. So it always gives us what to do with that incremental thing. So all three functions are aligned and they talk all in terms of the value that is getting delivered. So that's the role I see RGM playing.
I love the metaphor of the music. I think yeah, it really brings it to life that you're basically conducting a work of art together. Because in the end, that's what you're doing. There are so many levers that you have to perform to so many different targets, and in the end, it has to become this one big orchestra. So it's a good, very good example. And if you had to make one bold prediction about RGM 5 years from now, what would it be?
So the way I would see it is RGM right now is a standalone function in most of the organizations, where there are some people sitting in there who are looking after getting the most cutting edge digital products that will help the company either diagnose something or predict something or simulate an environment. So that's the role that I'm seeing right now. But 5 years down the line, all the organizations would have caught up to that level of what are the tools that are needed and what is the capability that is needed. So it will effectively be an integrated role. It will not be a standalone function. It will be a leadership capability. And more importantly, because everyone has those same tools, so it will not be the sharpness of the sword, but rather the skill of the swordsman that will determine how are you going to use it. For example, if we have Amazon data, they give us real-time sales analytics. So that thing is available to everyone, and every organization would apply some bots and extract that data. But what do you do with that data? And how are you integrating the actions that come out of it into your day-to-day working so that it's almost automated, or the frontline team knows what to do when they encounter a particular spike or a particular trough? How do you go ahead with it? So that becomes the key. So getting the swordsman ready for fight is going to be the leadership capability.
My last question is more about you personally. What's the one lesson that you learned early on in your career, and that still shapes the way you approach RGM today?
So it's a very interesting one. I started my career with Castrol, the company that makes engine oil, and we have a very robust management trainee program, part of which was a boot camp where you would go through a couple of lessons. And one of the exercises was spend one day in a retail store and just observe all the transactions. Nothing else. So you don't have to try to optimize things, but just see how consumers are interacting with our products, interacting with our super category, and how are they perceiving things. So that's where I realized that price is not a mathematical number. It's not just a financial exercise that we have done in Excel sheet, and there's an output that, okay, I have this much COGS and I have this much of my R&D investment and other things which needs to go into my pricing and come at a price. But pricing is much more behavioral. It's much more emotional element, because when you give a price, you give a signal. You tell people how accessible you want to be, which are the stores where I'm going to be available, and how much quality has been put into designing those products. So pricing was, earlier I used to think it's some geeks who would be sitting in a room and who would be calculating it, but it's much more than that. There is always marketing involved and RGM involved into these pricing decisions. So effectively, the entire organization gets reflected in how we price the products. So that element of pricing, by not just being a financial element, but being that holistic representation of the organization, that was something which was eye-opening to me.
Really nice. So really what we're talking here about is the value proposition. What do you actually sell to people and how much are they willing to spend on it? And I think it's maybe the least tangible part of RGM, to be fair, because this is about the people.
Exactly. And with the increasing options that we have now, so earlier they were just traditional channels, and now we have private labels where retailers would have their own private labels, and we have direct to commerce where companies are sort of bypassing the retailers and directly reaching to the consumer. So the number of options with consumer increases. So the
Yeah.
whole definition of value changes. An example would be earlier, everyone would think that you would want product delivered immediately to you or as fast as possible. But when you have the likes of Temu, Shein, where consumers are willing to wait because the overall value proposition of the waiting time versus the discounts that they're able to get, it's a very different value. So somebody who goes in for a click and collect, or someone who does online shopping with 1 day delivery, has all these options to explore. So the definition of value itself keeps changing. So it's very important to stay close to the consumers and then price ourselves so that we address all of these value elements that contribute to the overall perception of value.
I love how we end this question because in the end, in CPG, it always circles back to the consumer and how they shop, how they behave, how they consume, how they perceive a brand. So I think this is a good illustration of what companies like Mars are built of, products that consumers love. So thank you. I'm going to ask you one last question to wrap up. Who would you like to see in our next episode?
I would definitely want to see someone from, say, supply chain who has embraced the overall concept of RGM and thinks RGM first rather than it being the final thing that comes to their mind. So when they are on the drawing board and thinking of next year or planning something, they think RGM first.
It's a really nice suggestion. We'll definitely take that one into account. Well, thank you very much for your contribution, all your answers and insights. It was lovely to have you here.
Same here. It was so lovely talking to you.